Today is the 10th July 2021. We will have our movement today quite simple, quite clear. First of all, we will have a recovery considering the use as database Sigma, which allowed me to have data storage and work this and have an intelligence. And sometimes I will need. I can use this at the make decision procedure, and it's the idea of this white label industrial project under violation. And of course, that violation of my privacy can impact a lot of interest, conditional paper, 33 trillion, 1% of first trillion. I can have divisions on it. We will observe that the idea that you have on mind is something like this: prevention of trust. Was said once in Italy that mafia groups and the state come together. Those two things have kind of an approach, and this approach in general is by culture. We observe that in the same way, the economical power and the state power indeed will kind of get along with this observation that we had. And by obvious, the misuse of institutions will imply consequences against those institutions. These institutions can be corporate, can be public, sometimes international, sometimes national. National as international, purpose, a lot of nations doing an agreement, or international as corporate, kind of a big deal involving a lot of nations, sometimes ultimate promiscuous things as an arrangement of a common interest as public area and corporative area local with projection international, like the tax agreement at the international financial system. Of course, that we must have the taxation, but use the taxation to research the quality of the money and prevent the criminal evaluation as result inside companies, which is financing a lot of things around the globe. We could observe this model, which in general is presented like this. You have one driver linked with the public treasury or public budget, transferring money for peers explicit with domain inside hidden that will have an image or projection, something like this. Getting this and will compile and storage thing have a big money, storage can happen, for instance, at areas that you can go inside all the time, like the Vatican, the church, and entities with tax immunity. We will observe that in Brazil we have this systematical failure 7423 item 1 of our constitution, failure of state, of democratic institution of federative levels, which imply the state impacting the security, not proper declaration as a statement at the economy, not reliable quality. And this for sure is extended to the corporate peer that must indicate that they are reliable, and will impact my guarantee of as funds, my guarantee as work property, and all these will impact the data. I must have the habeas data in Brazil, considering the public area, but the user sometimes is the international cooperative area or the international association of state, or the fusification of both, setting a conglomerate. And we can have this on Olympics, pandemic, and FIFA World Cup. On budget, distortions on budget for sure. Article 1, Item 4, free will as my action, premise of state, government, and society. All with problems in the same way America, Article 1, Section 8, plus preamble to have the tranquility. This problem that we can have when I apply my free will by law and suffer a lot of threats and consequences. It's a perception that you have distortions on government, on cooperative area, government and state as following the law and have the accomplishment with the law and have the proper transparency and accountability, compliant by German Financial Ministry and by the OECD in the same way. This will present it as a lack of will to do the right thing and follow the law, impacting from your intention, which is empty as accomplishment or commitment with the law, the first premise, as regulatory. The second one, the constitution will break to both in order to have the approach that you need. The approach that you need will set one area, considering the gain you make higher in a short period, and this period will allow you to obtain the advantage, such the scam or the Ponzi pyramid, and people will have the interest to get inside. In the next moment, you have the projection as a big expectation, and you use this economical power that you achieve here to have or occupy chairs at the state, at the government, at areas and public area around the globe, considering the police, the prosecutors, and the judges. Some different areas, but by the concurrent association, considering a global arena as tax or global events as regulation, you indeed have a conjuncture for criminality, considering these two types of international association. You can have the trust formed little by little, a small piece of a contracts under overpricing, changing the perception of the economy and the behavior, impacting the free will and the autonomy of the economical agents. So you can have this in a unique act, transferring a big money, justifying as an event, as a carnival, or to have the disease or something like this as help. Indeed, you had medical fields, investment for medical fields in some area, 1 billion, 2 billions in a unique act, and no medical fields. Of course, that this is a criminal scam, but we complained this before, and we are having the expectation as solution. We will have in mind that if we have this model as database Sigma, considering the paradigm as Unisys, which was a company formed by two other companies as a fusion, considering the investigation that we had on it, which is about the overpriced contracts and behavior as corrosive argument observed that the inflation plus the expanded and the overpriced contract operational account, simulation of operations, fake registry, migration of modified data to try to put things properly. Inflation plus expanded, overpriced list storage, pricing management, scam, facility for sure, to have the driver, to have the peers associated and people able to suffer consequences and scapegoat things against the real big criminals that have the domain of scams. Sometimes people that you consider very respectful, but indeed they are criminal. Positive one, inner value negative one is so criminal as 00 positive one, but the public corruption is always worst. This model indeed was observed as function density, considering two different types of interest, Republicans and Democrats, corruption of both both political parties form a new interest, named as the third way. This third way is going around the globe. We have the systematic accusation, corruption, which has a consequence of keep people complaining a dozen times before the public department committing violation, abuse of prerogatives. In Brazil, this will have a registry, but this registry must be fake. Fake registry, the public area 313 A and B of our criminal law, plus the responsibility as abusive procedure by the public area. Can happen at my room, can happen at the corporative area, because it's a public procedure. And the only way to have this is the public, the cooperative peer having the corruption association with the public area to domain this scam and put a company down or someone down. It's a criminal association, transnational organized crime, because it's involving money, function capacity, decreased density to present arguments by law null or very low. We have the white collar crime, the tax evasion, financial evasion, in general financial crimes observed, and a special concern at the Security Forum Brazil USA. Simulation of patterns and observation that you have 2012-2021, projected control 2021-2028. We have on present time the piracy and the product as fake, industrial area and immaterial aggression like you do against this research all the time. You set structural gaps at investment saving curve and the liquidity money curve, and then you have the integration and replacement of entire areas considering the capital asset quantified by money, supported by the pricing scheme and the rate exchange scam that you have running by central banks necessary and banks associated with distribution of areas of interest A, B, C on a geopolitical area, euro, and then you have arrays, euro A, B, C. You can use the Venn diagram, the 18 NATO's back office to have this, research and this strike. We will have on mind another thing, another relevant thing, which is for instance, if you have the monitoring procedure on Europe and you have an oil speech and a lot of things, the G7, the Eurasia Bank Summit, and you wouldn't like to be, under this exposition or this monitoring process because you consider that's going on during the summit that you have. Then you have a big solution, which is have the adjustment and the agreement before the summit, because you are reliable. Sometimes you are, great European white people, trustable, reliable, and respectfully. But indeed, the criminal behavior has no color, no gender, no creed, no nothing, no nationality, whatever. You will observe that this is the G20 special support. It is support, it's an academic support. I work with audit, research, audit, governance, risk, and compliance. We will have in general my contract. My contract is something like this, but I would like to have an extra gain at this contract. So I will set an area here, which is my overprice situation. My overprice situation will happen from the contract A, and I have a small area here, which is the overprice storage up to Z. And then I will commit that mistake that in general we have all the time, which is have this reading, but indeed we have a storage and compiled argument as money, which puts you in a duplicity of registry, and this will be indeed presented as something like this. And then you have the fusification between the contract as registry and the money that you had as overprice, because you do not have enough operations available around the globe to have this money transferred. And as you can observe here, you will have this situation here. You have a tail that allowed me to have this evidence and put you down. Following the money, as you can observe, the pattern of transference had a buffering. We could have this at the exponential curve, considering the behavior as linear as exponential. You have linear projection of money and exponential pattern as operation, but you can have exponential operations at the analogical space, and the transference of money for sure will match. And then we are evidencing U. If you consider that this money storage can be used to support the small units activity, and you will justify this by the speech as recovering of COVID-19, considering the projection at the G20 summit that you will have or is having, and then you in a covered way to have this transfer this money, expose yourself as something very good, and people will have small units business, and then will try to recover things, and then you will have another pandemic event as big crisis, closing all things, and people will lose everything. You will have this money storage, to obtain this small property, compile, compilate, and have the trust. You are insist on it. There are no systematical, there are no aleatory behavior or intention in a systematical way of do. For sure, if you have this in Brazil, and indeed you have, you must request this information international authority of the Interpol and the FBI Directory of Transnational Organized Crime, OECD, NATO, and CIA, Preventive Control America, asked this in Brazil. Article 174, the state must be reliable and offer this information that you have. And the cooperative peers associated with the Brazilian state, even as an international player, must indicate that they are doing the right thing, and we do not have this. It's very recommended to have Seizure against international company in Brazil as international strike, observing the law in Brazil, but as a command, I would say, made from the international area against those companies acting inside the public area Brazil as public body, get linked with corporate peers, as you could observe the pattern at that model, which was something like this, the central bank model that puts national business, that model that we have, it's here. We have a national business acting with an international peer. I have my public area America, my corporative area America as center of investment, my public area Brazil as center of investment. We have the transference of money between center of investment in general, corporative America, public area Brazil, and then we will have the association with, for instance, America investment transfer money to a cooperative player in Brazil, which indeed is linked with we have the money cooperative transfer to a joint venture in Brazil, a joint venture between public area Brazil and cooperative area America in Brazil. And we will observe that indeed this transference has an American cooperative interest here. This will be on public budget in Brazil. We will do the Seizure as international Seizure against this joint venture as cooperative, and then you will expose the two centers of interest, Brazil, public America, corporate. And then you will have the interrogatory against them from the top to the bottom, top-down corruption scale. We will finish here. If it's necessary, we will continue. The G20 summit under monitoring procedure may be Operation Third Wheel.